Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to show you my Cattleya lueddemanniana. It's a species Cattleya, and here is the name tag. I got it from Wild War Orchids, and they are a great vendor. So if you haven't, I strongly suggest you to check them out. They're in southern Jersey, not too far. Well, it's like 2 hours drive from where I am, but it's still much closer than some of the other orchid vendors in the country. And I think for my orchid videos, this is gonna be the first one and out of many, hopefully. And my plan is I will film them once each species or cultivar, hybrid, is in bloom, and I will talk through maybe their habit, their flowers, and where they're naturally from or distributed, as well as some of the culture stuff. So with that said, let's dive into it. So as you can see, in terms of habit, this is a small or medium-sized Cattleya species. It's nothing like huge, as huge as say Maxima or some of the purpuratas I've seen. By the way, there is a purpurata back there. You can see it's already not even blooming. It has sheath but not in flower, and it's much longer. So it's nothing huge like that, but it's also not like those dwarf Cattleya species. So I think this is a really good size in terms of it gives some presence, but it's not overwhelming. And I don't know what this spot is, but it could be because it was a little bit sunburnt when I first had it out. And you can also see some of the darker or maroon spots on the leaves, as well as on a little bit on the pseudobulb, but not quite as much. Also, of course, on the flower stalk, I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, those anthocyanin spots is probably just response to a higher light environment, and according to American Orchid Society website, they should go away once the pseudobulb and the flower gets older. But I like it, and I don't really care if they have the anthocyanin spots on them. And I mounted my Cattleya lueddemanniana, or all of my orchids, or most of them, and I got this one pretty much this size, so I can't take credit for growing it out. When I got it, the pseudobulb that is flowering was just a new leaf, but of course, I also can't take credit for a flowering because I feel like should only feel okay taking credits when the flower comes out of pseudobulb that initiated under my care. But regardless, I mounted it. I kept a lot of the roots still there. The roots are still alive. They're taking up water just fine, but there are no roots initiating. I was reading, and I think this species will initiate new roots once the flower fades. So hopefully that will happen soon. But so far it seems to be doing okay. The pseudobulbs are already a little bit shriveled. When I got it, when it had its intact root system in the pot, and the new pseudobulb is not too shriveled, so I'm not too worried about the flowering taking up too much of the energy and whatnot. So regarding the flower itself, as you can see, I actually sometimes have problems distinguishing all the labiata type Cattleya, the unifoliates, in terms of their morphology or size and whatnot. But I think some of the characteristics of Cattleya lueddemanniana is this really wide petal, and compared to, say, if you think of Maxima, it's just like really skinny. So the really wide petal, and you also see those two yellow spots, and maybe that's also characteristic. This flower should be a little bit flatter. It's probably going to be much flatter in terms of, if you look at from the side, the two lateral petals are sort of leaning forward, or people call it cupped. But I think overall, the judging criteria, people like it to be flatter and rounder. But again, I don't really care, and sometimes flowers do their things, and It could be because of light, could be because of temperature when the flower opened. But regardless, I love it. And you can see this is the typical lavender, purple, pink color of lueddemanniana. There are some other color types. I think there's maybe semi-alba and cerulean, and this is probably closer to the tipo. And the cultivar itself is Big Haha. I don't know too much about it, but it looked great to me. And it also has those stripes near the veins, the midribs of the petals. I don't know if that is gonna persist into the later flowers, but again, it's nice. And also look at this gorgeous lip. It feels velvety, and it is velvety, and it's just so cute. I wanted to shine a UV light on it and to see if it actually, sometimes flowers show different patterns of pigments under UV, just so that they can sort of guide the insects, who some of them can see, reflections under UV, to crawl into the parts to fertilize the plant. Yeah, this is Cattleya lueddemanniana, and in terms of the fragrance, I love fragrant Cattleyas, or I love fragrant plants in general. This one is pretty good. It's not as strong and fills the entire house. It doesn't fill my apartment for sure, but it's very noticeable when I walk past it. It smells a little bit like Walkeriana, to be honest. Beyond that, I'm really bad at describing smells, so I can't really say. But it's a nice floral, fragrant smell. It's nothing pungent or off-putting to most people, I would assume. But of course, different people perceive scents differently. But I really like it. It's not too strong, but it's also not very faint. It's a nice strength to most people. And I definitely don't feel nauseated next to it. And moving on to the natural distribution of this species, according to American Orchid Society's website, it's from the northern coastal ranges of Venezuela, and from a sea level to maybe, I think it was 1,800 feet elevation. So I would classify this as more of a lowland species, but it is also to an area where it's very, very dry, and a lot of the vegetation is basically xerophytic. So all those combined, it's probably really drought tolerant and likes warmer temperatures. And I think they also mentioned the temperature are around, the 90-degree mark Fahrenheit in the day and 60s at night. So it's also like pretty tolerant of a wider temperature range, I would assume, than some of the, humid coastal species. But regardless, it's from a really dry habit, and it's from a really bright area. So in terms of culture, I think general Cattleya culture is fine, but it also likes a lot of light. Of course, to a degree that you don't burn the leaves or plant, but it's probably can tolerate a higher amount of light than some of the other Cattleyas. And I guess coming from a more of a drier environment, it doesn't need too much humidity, so I will keep it on the drier side. Of course, I have it mounted, so root rot is usually, hopefully, not a problem for me. But yeah, overall, a lot of light, not too much light. Not too much water. I think that should be fine. And of course, this one grows a lot during the summer months when it's warm, and apparently the roots will initiate after the flower fades. So I think those are some of the important culture topics. And I have a couple more of the Cattleya lueddemanniana. None of them are in bloom, but let me just briefly show you what the plants look like. Let me move over, actually pull this one out earlier. So this is a cerulean. It has grown tons of roots. I got it at an orchid show earlier in January, so it's been a month and a half or 2 months or so, and it has grown a lot of roots. The roots are really beautiful looking, and they are traversing over this mount, and it is trying to initiate a new bud right there. It's not quite there yet, but hopefully maybe this bud will bloom, maybe the next one after it. And that is a Cattleya lueddemanniana. And I also have two, probably tipo lueddemanniana right here and there. Those are from HR Orchids in Hawaii. They've been on the mound a little bit less than a month maybe, and they're initiating new roots as well. So there's one there for on this plant, and there's one. Let me see, how do I focus? I don't know if you can see because of the lighting. Maybe you have to take my word for it. Yeah, they're both rooting, so I think this is one of the species where roots happen after the pseudobulb has matured. But yeah, so to summarize, Cattleya lueddemanniana, great species, doesn't take up too much room, and again, gorgeous flowers, gorgeous scent. Highly recommend to anyone who love it. And previewing to probably the next video, I have my Cattleya intermedia pushing out its bud right there. I have my Cattleya tigrina pushing out its bud right there. And I know Cattleya tigrina is capable of producing many more buds than this, but I'm just glad I have some at all. And what's the other one I had? Oh yeah, the other one I had is on this suspect Cattleya walkeriana. It's right there. I don't know if it is a walkeriana, but if it's not a pure walkeriana, it has a lot of walkeriana in it. But I've never drought stressed it, and it's still trying to flower for me, and it's already spring here. So we'll see. I think those are all the ones that are showing flower buds. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.